Hey, this is Tiqqle, and in this video we're going to go over the Elemental Shaman rework changes that are hitting the beta. We're going to go through that as it looks pretty exciting for Shaman and War Within. We're going to focus on Elemental Shaman. There's been so many changes in the Shaman tree as well as Elemental and Resto, and I got some bad news for the Enhancement Shamans out there. Spoiler, there's really not much changes for Enhance. But because there are so many changes in the Shaman tree, it is going to help Enhance in many different ways. So we're going to go ahead and go through some of that. There is defensive, good news is that there's a lot of defensive changes. Good news is there's a lot more mobility access. Good news is that the Shaman tree is a lot less two-node talent areas, so we can get more variety. Some things are decoupled. There's a lot of changes. We're going to go through some of those. There's definitely a lot. I don't think we're going to go through all of them, but it's pretty exciting with some of the changes. And my biggest point of excitement is, hey, you know what? At least they made some changes and they sent it. So let's go ahead and go through the notes real quick. We're going to do other videos about builds or other things and probably play this out on stream in groups in the part. During stream we'll do dungeons and stuff. But let's go ahead and just hit on Elemental Shaman. Hopefully not too long. But the number one point is they did a rework. I think my bet was that they were going to rework Enhance in a heavy way, Ellie in a little bit way, and then rest of Shaman in some middle of the lane there. But that is not what happened. Elemental Shaman is the one that has gotten a huge revamp, in my opinion. Rest of Shaman got some tweaks, but Elemental Shaman got big adjustments, and I think that is probably because it was a very single spec, very interesting playstyle with wind speakers, resetting lava bursts over and over by pressing Earthshock. A very fun playstyle. I've been playing Ellie in Mythic Plus this season. Super fun, but very one-dimensional. And so I think that with the changes that they made, hopefully it's going to open things up. But there are some more fundamental things for Shaman that we're going to hit on here that I think are a really big deal. Number one, there is now a raid utility for Shaman. We're just going to jump into the game. I'm going to show it to you in the spell book. It is pretty exciting. People have been kind of asking for this in general, and this is now all for Shaman. It's called Sky Fury, which you might have recognized as, oh, isn't that Sky Fury Totem from PvP talent? Actually, no, something different. This is Sky Fury. Harness the Fury of the Windlord to grant the ally 2% mastery and empower their auto attacks to have 20% chance to instantly strike again for 1 hour. This is for your entire raid. When you put this on, yes, that is indeed Wind Fury buff. So every spec of Shaman will have Wind Fury given out to their entire raid and their party, as well as a mastery buff, which is good, unique value for Shamans to bring to raids. There is definitely going to be some enhancement Shamans that are very not happy because they were the only ones that were bringing Wind Fury to a party, and now it's just across the entire raid, as well as you don't need an enhancement shaman. You can have a resto shaman covering that for you, which maybe is a little bit easier, and it's going to make enhanced shamans kind of sad, to be honest. But in general, good news for shaman that they got a raid buff, raid utility. Hopefully it means that every group will at least have one shaman. Now the class tree, like I mentioned, tons of changes. For this elemental shaman video, we'll be focusing on some of the ones that I think will be most impactful to elemental shamans, as survivability has been a big challenge, as well as in PvP and PvE. So we're going to hit on those points, as well as mobility. That's something I haven't really heard people talk about. And utility, while elemental shaman and shaman have a lot of utility, I actually think that they have a lot less utility than they used to. And I think with some of the changes that they made, it actually makes it way better, as well as some more exciting options for you to use when you go through this. And I am going to just quickly give you a disclaimer. I'm not going to tell you if Elemental Shaman is going to be good or not. That has to do with tuning, how strong each ability's damage is going to be, etc. I'm mostly going to be reviewing it for how fun is it going to be, the utility, the different build options, what's kind of interesting or exciting or possible. I'm not going to say is it going to be better than a Boomkin or whatever, right? Or your DHs out there, right? So anyway, with that being said, let's go continue through this. So yeah, class tree, so many things have been adjusted. The biggest ones I think is getting a raid buff was a pretty big one. We'll go through some of these. Again, there's so many, I'm not going to read through them all. I think the best thing is to just go into the talent tree and just highlight what's there. I will bring to your attention one big thing is there's definitely a lot that has been removed. And I think that's an important part for you to think about. And that's an important thing that people have been expressing a little bit on stream is that, hey, they got rid of Stone Skin. Like, great. Awesome. Not happy about it. Well, they added some other things. They took Flurry away. Okay, but they added it in Enhanced Tree. Okay, it takes the talent there, right? Master Weapon, blah, 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 right? So all those things have been adjusted. And I think one of the best things that they have done, though, is made the following talents one point, right? Like instead of having multiple, these will now only take 1 point for the maximum benefit. This means that you basically get, like a lot of these you may be taking, and now you can get potentially, what is that, 6 points back if you were to go into all those and put into other places. Obviously that's not quite realistic, but yeah. So going into Elemental Shaman, yeah, we'll talk about the talent tree. Like I said, all of this is reworked. The biggest call out for you to know is that mastery has been changed. On retail, we're gonna go to retail. Retail, it's your lightning bolt, lava burst have a chance, cast at. Sorry, wow, I can't speak. Your lightning bolt, lava burst, and chain lightning casts have a 82% chance to cast a second cast on the same target, dealing 93% of normal damage and generating less maelstrom. That's actually 93 is pretty close. But on beta and in the War Within, mastery's been adjusted. Two things, and I think they are very good things. One is they've added this, increases all elemental and physical damage by 10%. So there will be a base amount of damage increase, and now that will affect Earthquake, which I think is a huge deal for AoE scaling and damage scaling for Elemental Shaman in the future, because that's what we've been rocking, but we haven't been getting, much benefit in the physical area, as well as this is what Enhancement Shaman's mastery is more or less, right? And so now we will be getting physical and elemental damage increases, which I kind of think is good. Now, the downside here is that now it says that your casts have a 34% chance to trigger a second cast, which again, that percentage is based on mastery. I have a low percentage right now, so that can become much higher, what I have on retail. But the downside is it deals 35% of normal damage instead of the 85, and that's exactly what's on the patch notes, which will be down listed in the comments. So I think some people are not happy about this. I think this is fine. I actually think that mastery being so heavily weighted for Ellie for such a long time, like we need to change it up a little bit, and now it's this increased damage aspect, which is kind of like a lot of masteries. It seems like that's a trend Blizzard's going, like Survival Hunter I heard is something similar, and it's just going to increase damage. But I like that it's not like, it might make it so that we can take more stats that are not just mastery dumping, right? I don't really like that stat distribution. I don't think it's great, especially compared to things like Fire Mage. Fire Mage has such a balance of stats, which is kind of exciting, more interesting. It's easier to make builds and use pieces of gear that you get in PvE. So yeah, and in PvP, I also hope that increased damage will be useful in terms of for burst damage as well as amplifying off of verse. Anyway, with that being said, I think again the biggest things I want to call out, there were some Maelstrom generation changes, but these are the talents that have been removed, and I think the biggest one that everyone is going to focus on is this one: Lava Speakers, Lava Resurgent. And if you don't know what that is, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder. It's what everyone's rocking in every form of LA content right now, which is whenever you cast Earth Shock, Elemental Blast, or Earthquake, gain Lava Surge and increase the damage of Lava Burst by 10%. This basically means that your globals on everything is just Lava Burst. But this makes our damage look like this in Mythic Plus. And to be honest, it's not that cool. It's not that great. I mean, it makes it look kind of boring. It kind of looks kind of dumb. But then again, if I look at this rogue, it kind of looks dumb too. So I get why they're doing this. It makes it so that I press more than one button. Having a class that's just based on one damaging ability is kind of silly, and it's not very cool. While it's fun, it's satisfying. I love meatballs, but it's not a good idea. And it just doesn't, it's not going to work forever. And I think people get bored with it for sure. If you get bored with it, make sure to put down in the comments or put something positive there, because I know there's some people that will be upset. Now, other things were removed. We're not going to go through those. A lot of them were adjusted into the talent tree. So we're just going to go ahead and go on to the beta and just review what those are. I'm not going to go through the other specs. I'll have other videos on that. Obviously, Enhancement Shaman got basically no big changes. But let's go ahead. Now we're on the beta on the War Within, for the War Within. Let's just go through the Shaman tree adjustments first. I'm going to highlight things. I'm not going to go through every single change. If you want to do that, you can read the patch notes yourself. I think one of the big changes, though, up in the top section in the first 3 rows, the adjustments that I'm super psyched about is that mobility is here. And I think that's one thing that I've been kind of disappointed about with Shaman in the war, in Dragonflight, was that all the movement talents were down here. They were like down in the bottom of the tree, and it was hard to get there. And the Shaman tree in general, like there was a lot of great utility, but you could only choose certain paths, and you couldn't get mobility and utility. You couldn't get, so you couldn't pair those up. Now what we have is you can get Thunderous Paws, or you can get Spirit Wolf. You can go ahead and get Spirit Walkers, or a reduced cooldown Gust of Wind now at 20 seconds. And then over on the far side, too, you can get Winds of Alakir, which is something that no one would basically take on the right side of the tree. So that's actually back in business. And I think that increased Ghost Wolf speeds is something I miss, from being able to take that. So I think that's one thing I'm excited about. You also see it over here. There's been a reshuffle of the right side of this tree because some of that mobility has moved up, which is, Earth Ellie's here, as well as Primordial Bond is now for the whole class, which again, it used to be just for Ellie. Now it's for the whole class, so that's nice. Windrush Totem has been separated from Earth Grab, which I think is also good for utility. And there's some fun things that I think Windrush will be able to do because, number one of a choice node right before that or below that is Windrush Totem's cooldowns reduced and it gives you a longer speed buff. That's fine. But more interestingly is Jetstream, which is Windrush Totem movement speed bonus is increased by 10% and removes snares, which removing snares is actually kind of a big deal in PvP and in PvE. It can even wipe debuffs. Another really interesting addition and adjustment was that some PvP talents were moved into the Shaman base tree. Specifically, this one's Season Winds. Interrupting a spell with Windsure decreases the damage taken from that school by 15% for 18 seconds, stacking up to now 2 times. It's just a cool way. I think for PvP, it's a really big deal. That's out of the PvP section. I also think it's a big deal potentially for PvE, as you can be able to reward interrupts, because that's something you can do very frequently and get a damage reduction, especially for big casts. Damage reduction is a theme that I am noticing that they're kind of throwing into the Shaman tree, this being one of the ways you get damage reduction. The other way, which we can go to next, is this new talent, which replaces Stone Skin, but it's Stone Bulwark Totem, which we'll use here in a second, but it's a pulsing totem, 2-minute cooldown, that gives you a shield absorbing 1.1 million damage for 10 seconds and up to an additional 115k for 5 seconds. I don't know how big of a deal that is going to be from a numbers perspective, but the fact that it's a 2-minute cooldown, the fact I can reset it with Call of Elements is awesome. I think it's great. It's another way to get defensive absorption shields, which is really important for shamans in general because they are so squishy in Mythic Plus and they are so squishy kind of in general, particularly PvP, where I'm talking enhancement shamans, Ellie shamans, as well as some hero talents with Totemic for enhance that could be helpful there. Now, something else I think is super cool is that I hope they lean into this even harder is enhanced imbues. The effects of weapon imbues are increased by 30%. Weapon imbues now include a shield imbue, which we are going to talk about in a second, but that is something that you now can imbue your shield, which this will also buff that, which is pretty freaking cool. Now that's this side of the tree. They did add something for Frost Shock, like letting it cleave and adding additional snaring. Interesting that they did that. They did baseline certain things for certain of the classes, so we can go through some of that. But overall, the only other thing I want to call out is this elemental resistance. Healing from Healing Stream reduces frost, fire, nature damage taken by 6% for 3 seconds. And that's probably on the pulse, which we can basically test out, right? You press and we pulse, or it's just not going to heal because it's technically overhealing maybe, or it's not working because it's the beta. But that's one that I also think will be pretty cool on top of the other magic damage reduction by 6%, right? So there's a lot of cool stuff. I'm really happy with the adjustments there. On the Elemental Shaman side, let's switch focus over there. They did change certain things like Choice Node for Earthshock or Elemental Blast at the top, which is nice. They did do something else, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm curious what you think. Put it in the comments. You have now have an option with Earthquake. Either you can cast Earthquake at wherever your cursor is, right? You can place it down, or you can have Earthquake actually just cast on your target around them. This spell is cast at your target. Kind of interesting, so you don't have to use your mouse. I'm not really sure why they did that, but it is there. Otherwise, there's been a lot of reshuffling of this tree, like in its entirety. To be honest, like everything has moved around. The other big change was Ice Fury has been reworked. It's going to give you, casting Lava Burst has a chance to replace your Frost Shock with Ice Fury. So basically, you don't even have to cast it anymore, which is nice. People were not digging Ice Fury casting, and it now replaces it with Ice Fury for 2 stacks, and it basically just causes damage. Your next 2 Frost Shocks increase damage and generate Maelstrom after that. So there's some other changes in here, but I think the big one that I want to call out is the one that I mentioned before, which is down this tree. One is while nature lightning shield is active, your nature damage is increased by 8%. So that's kind of nice. I think one thing Blizzard's clearly doing is trying to put a focus on not just meatballs, and they're trying to make it so that we can have lightning builds. We have Stormbringer as an entire tree, so I think that they're clearly trying to do that. With this is a start of that, which is lightning shield, 8% increased damage basically to your nature school, which is again lightning, your lightning bolt, chain lightning, your earth shock, but obviously just not lava burst. Now below that is something I think is super cool, and I hope they keep leaning into this. Resto Shaman has something similar to this for one of their trees, but imbue your shield with an element of lightning for 1 hour, giving lightning bolt and chain lightning a chance to call down 2 thunder strikes on your target for a certain amount of damage. And I'm going to go ahead and just show you what that looks like. Number one, let me just whip out my weapon here. You can see that it's actually, if I can take that out, it actually has an appearance on the weapon. I really like that. I also have Flame Tongue on. So now if I look at my buffs, I have my raid buff. I have my improved Flame Tongue. I have my shield, Thunder Strike Ward, as well as Flame Tongue, which is kind of a lot, but that's okay. So I'll just cast Lightning Bolt here. Oh, there you go. You already saw it. The 2 thunder strikes just happened. So the animations are looking pretty good. I'm a big fan. You can also see another talent that they've brought back, which we'll go into next. But yeah, I think this shield enchant is pretty freaking cool. So let's go ahead and have it proc one more time, hopefully. Or it will never proc, either way. All right, I guess it's never going to proc. Oh yeah, lightning bolt. Okay. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I get your lightning bolt and your chain lightning have a chance to call down 2 thunder strikes. Pretty dope. The other big, so then down the middle is obviously a core piece, you know, with lightning rod and Stormbringer tree, kind of having some synergies there. Fury of the Storm activating a Stormkeeper summons a powerful lightning elemental, which is pretty nice. There's also other talents now increasing the duration of your elements by 20%, as well as Primal Elementalist, as well as Skybreakers, which I think people will be going in the future to get their pet uptime really going. But there's other things like this, Echo of the Elements. When your Storm Elemental or Fire Elemental expires, it leaves behind a lesser elemental to continue attacking. So you're going to have a lot of elementals up. You're going to have the Storm one from Stormkeeper, you're going to have Fire, and then you're going to have Mini Fire, right? And so there's a lot of that going on in the tree. There's also Earthen Rage. If you've played Elemental Shaman for any number of expansions, you know what this one is. This is where once you do damage, you will be getting rocks from the ground coming to help you. And you can see the lightning actually just went off there multiple times. There you go. The rock just doing damage, which is just passive increased damage, which is kind of nice. Otherwise, Primordial Wave is still here. It's fine. Liquid Magma is down there in the corner. But again, you just don't have that Wind Speaker's damage. Now, there's other things here. Reduces the cast time of Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and increases duration of Earthquake. Aftershock and Surge of Power is now a very early on choice selection node at the top. The Elemental Fury increased crit damage for 20%. The typical stuff. There's also all the Ascendant stuff, but again, that's like kind of lackluster. I feel like that's kind of lackluster to me. But Mountains Will Fall is now more accessible. Echo of the Grey Sunnery is now tucked away in the corner here, as it should be. So yeah, and then there's also, this was in brand new Elemental Unity. While Storm Elemental is active, increases the nature damage by 10%. Fire L is fire damage. So again, you get some damage amps, and I think that's important for Elemental Shaman, particularly for the Lightning Bolt builds, to be able to have that kind of send it. So that's kind of where we're at. The other change I just do want to note is that there was a few PvP talent changes. Shamanism was brought in from Enhanced. This is where you can actually get Bloodlust and give you haste by 20%. And I can cast it on a friend in Arena, so I have 5 threes. I can have 2 people have Heroism every minute, which will be pretty... I actually am super excited about that. That's really cool. As well as Storm... Sky Fury is obviously not a totem anymore, but they do have Totem of Wrath. Primordial Wave summons a totem at your feet for 15 seconds that increases the critical strike damage and healing of spells by all allies, basically Sky Fury totem, by 20% for 15 seconds. And the way that basically works is you basically press... and it just drops on the ground right next to you. I could potentially move it, but yeah. That way, it's not another global to press, which is actually very nice for us. So I think there's a lot of good changes. I'm actually pretty psyched about it. I really was at a pretty sad point about Shaman until this. I'm not recommending any builds or anything. I think there's a lot of exciting theory crafting that can go on into this now. I think Stone Bulwark, by the way, if I press it, it just goes down. It only has 7,000. Oh, no. Sorry. 7 million health. I have 7 million health, so I don't even know if that's right now. Is that right? Yeah. So I don't even know. It seems like it has a lot of health, and it pulses. So it's 10, 9, 8 for 100k healing, right? And then it goes down to 5, 4, and then it goes back to 9, right? So it's going to be pulsing healing with the shield. There's going to be other ways for us to get more defensive, right? With season winds as well as healing stream totem. I don't think it's going to work right now because it's not actually healing me, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But no, I'm pretty excited. I think my overall take on this is that Shaman's back. I think Elemental Shaman with these changes, very exciting builds that can be made here. Very exciting ways to play. It's all going to come down to the tuning in the end if they're good or not. But I think that with these changes, you're not only going to be able to get mobility, damage reduction, and be able to reset that again, more damage reduction, magic damage reduction, as well as other talents here that you couldn't take before just because of being forced into certain builds. I think Resto Shaman is going to benefit greatly from this Shaman rework tree as well. But Elemental, I think I'm just super psyched, whether it's a Thunderstrike Ward or the focus that, hey, we're going to get away from the meatballs or at least have some builds that are different than meatballs. But again, we'll have to see how it goes. I really hope Mountains Will Fall and Echo of the Great Sundering work together really well because I want to see Earthquake be our #1 damage. Again, if I go back to retail, I just did a +8 with some friends. I don't want this distribution. I want in Mythic Plus, Earthquake #1, then maybe Chain Lightning, and then have it make sense. Right now, it doesn't really make sense, which is okay. But I would like to see some of that happen as well. So we're gonna do some dungeon testing, etc. So hopefully things don't die too fast. But I think Elemental Shaman's in a good place. I even think for PvP they're in a pretty good place, given that they have Burrow and other things now. The big question will be, can we get big burst numbers in PvP? That's going to be the big question. And I do think with Lightning Rod and Stormbringer, it's going to be possible for one-shots, while Farseer is going to be the same Lava Burst, consistent damage. But let me know what builds you can think of or that you're testing out. I know a lot of people are playing the beta right now. We're going to be playing it some more. I haven't been playing very much, to be honest, just testing just the talents and seeing what's going on. But I'm super excited about Shaman. I actually think that we're back a bit from an Elemental Shaman perspective. I'm just real worried about Enhance at this point. I know that people are kind of pleased with it, but it's concerning to me. But with that being said, let me know what you think down in the comments. Come by stream. We'll do some dungeons together, or we can talk about all these exciting changes, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye now.